During his presidency, Trump has made great efforts through the use of executive orders, limiting the amount of immigrants allowed into the country and strengthening the law enforcement that deals with them. The current immigration policy has wide-reaching adverse effects that has done more harm than good. Recent events that have reflected this policy, such as the separation of families at the southern border, which are shown to be the byproduct of this dehumanized policy. Other issues include a pandemic, a country seemingly at odds with each other, and the political meltdown that is 2020. Now, with Trump's term coming to a close, many look to the future of America with skeptical optimism and wonder, will it be the future of immigration and America overall? Hello. My name is Gabriel de Oliveira, class of 2023, and I am a sophomore, and my major is Baking Pastry Arts and Food Service Management. For my speech, I'll be discussing the current issue of immigration and how it has greatly affected the U.S. Onto the adverse effects and the consequences of the standing immigration policy. Asylum seekers, both families and their children, many of whom are fleeing from their native country due to extreme instability, are now turned away, further exposing them to even more dangerous. Latinos make up the largest ethnic group of non-citizens in the U.S. Most of these individuals have stayed in the U.S. for an extremely long time and have deep family ties, and have children who are lawful U.S. citizens. With the information in mind, it will be a great loss for the nation to cut them off and lose a substantial population. The removal of DACA, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival Program, which currently provides protection for removal and work authorization to nearly 700,000 unauthorized children, with this harsh overhaul of the program and now being practically dismantled, the absence of the protection from the program, they are now at a compromised position with even more complicated future ahead of them. The recent events that have impacted in the result of the current immigration policy, with numerous detention centers being erected by the U.S., they have separated children, many of whom are underage, from their families while deporting them and leaving the children behind. As a result, more than 5 million children in the U.S. currently living with at least one undocumented parent, 4.1 million of whom are U.S.-born citizens, are now at greater risk of having a parent or guardian deported. Trump has expanded the priorities of ICE, U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement, abolished Obama-era laws that protect immigrants, and use the fear of deportation to keep any who seek to come to the U.S. away. These policies greatly shocked the populace, since the U.S. hallmark is being the home of many immigrants from across the globe. Many have criticized Trump for his drastic and seemingly unconstitutional actions due to never going through Congress but using executive orders instead, especially with one of his campaign promises being the construction of a wall along the U.S.-Mexican border, and also knowing that Mexico will pay for it. With the end of Trump's first term and his subsequent removal from office, what will the U.S. look like by the start of the next year? Trump's rhetoric and policies during his presidency have been aimed at many key issues such as immigration, using fear and uncertainty, especially with the raging pandemic, taking the lives of 250,000 Americans. By now, with the confirmation of Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden winning the 2020 election, this may lead to repealing of Trump's harsh immigration policies. However, the future is still unknown, and the president-elect has much to do after inauguration. After Trump officially steps down as president, he will leave behind a harsh political landscape that will become even more polarized, since the 2016 election has fractured a nation that will leave his successor, Joe Biden, with many issues and problems to deal with. Many have felt disengaged and disenfranchised due to the Trump administration actions greatly affecting the country. What will be the greater consequences due to Trump's standing immigration policy moving forward? Has Trump succeeded in the goal of limiting the amount of immigrants allowed into the country? Partly, as mentioned As previously mentioned, Trump has made great strides on the immigration policy, mainly focused on curbing immigration and strengthening the law enforcement that deals with them. But due to his soon removal from office this coming January, many of these efforts and state laws will likely be dissolved by the president-elect. The Trump administration has undermined and attacked the standing ruling procedures regarding immigration with executive orders. As Trump has made great strides to limit the amount of immigrants coming to the country, and with the immigration policy under President Trump, it has become defunct and has done more damage to the country than previously thought. This will greatly affect future policies and American politics altogether, leading to a dehumanized state that separates families and destroys lives. I have several sources that touch upon the subject and its effects on a wider scale. Ever since Donald Trump took office in 2017, the immigration policy has been one of his most concentrated efforts. The barring of citizens from 7 different Muslim countries and the promise of a wall constructed on the U.S.-Mexican border are just some of what former President Trump has done with the immigration policy. The country has been regarded as a melting pot that many cultures from all across the world call the U.S. home, and that's for a great reason. Now, a few suggestions to the problem at hand. These may not solve the issue entirely, but they may be capable of alleviating the problem. 1. Loosen entry standards. The current policy is grossly inadequate and disadvantage to most who want to immigrate to the U.S. So having more broader entry limits and standards can be the start in the right direction. 2. Better naturalization efforts. Many have waited to become U.S. citizens. Some of these individuals have stayed in America for decades for the opportunity. Many of whom are refugees, as of the last years, have come to America in droves. My name is Gary de Oliveira, class of 2023, and I thank you for your time.